In the dead of night, the sprawling headquarters of Sterling Enterprises gleamed under the city lights, a monument to corporate power. Inside, a lone figure, Leo, pushed his cleaning cart through the deserted, opulent hallways. Leo wasn't just a janitor. He was an invisible man, a ghost who erased the day's mess while the city slept. His life was a quiet routine of mopping floors and emptying bins, a stark contrast to the world of high-stakes deals that unfolded here during the day. One evening, as Leo was polishing the boardroom's massive oak table, the doors burst open. In walked Alistair Sterling, the company's formidable CEO, flanked by his executive team. They were working late, fueled by coffee and ambition. Sterling, a man whose tailored suits cost more than Leo's annual salary, barely glanced at him. "Can you hurry it up? We're trying to save a multi-billion-dollar company here," he sneered, tossing a crumpled piece of paper toward the trash can but missing it. It landed near Leo's worn-out shoes. The executives chuckled. Leo felt a familiar sting of humiliation. He quietly picked up the paper, his eyes inadvertently scanning the scribbled notes on it. It was a series of complex equations and market projections. He didn't understand all of it, but something about the patterns felt strangely familiar. He stuffed it into his trash bag and continued his work, the laughter of the executives echoing in the silent hall. Back in his tiny apartment, Leo couldn't sleep. The crumpled paper haunted him. He retrieved it from his bag, smoothing it out on his small kitchen table. Before his life took a turn, before he had to drop out of college to care for his ailing mother, Leo had been a math prodigy. His dream was to be an analyst, to find stories in numbers. Looking at Sterling's notes, his old passion flared to life. He saw a flaw in the equation, a tiny miscalculation that could have catastrophic consequences for the company's new venture. He spent the rest of the night with a pencil and a stack of cheap paper, reworking the entire formula. He found a different path, a more stable and potentially far more profitable solution. By dawn, he had a single, clean sheet of paper with his revised calculations. It was a long shot, a crazy idea, but he had to try. He couldn't just stand by and watch the company crumble, not when he knew he could help. It wasn't about Sterling. It was about the thousands of other employees, people like him, whose livelihoods were on the line. The next day, heart pounding, Leo waited outside Sterling's office. When the CEO finally emerged, Leo held out the paper. "Mr. Sterling, I think there's an error in your projections for the new project." I took the liberty of recalculating. Sterling snatched the paper, his face a mask of disbelief and annoyance. "A janitor's gonna teach me about multi-billion-dollar finance. This is a new low. Get out of my sight before I have you fired." He crumpled Leo's meticulously written sheet and threw it into the nearest bin without a second glance. Dejected, Leo returned to his duties, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. He had tried, he had stepped out of the shadows, and he'd been crushed. Later that day, Sarah, Sterling's sharp and observant executive assistant, was tidying up his office. She noticed the crumpled paper in the bin. Curiosity piqued by the janitor's unusual boldness, she smoothed it out. Sarah had a background in finance herself. As her eyes scanned Leo's work, they widened. The calculations were elegant, brilliant. She saw the same flaw Leo had, and his solution was nothing short of genius. She immediately took the paper to the head of the analytics department, bypassing a furious Sterling. For hours, the top minds at the company pored over Leo's single sheet. The verdict was unanimous. The janitor was right. His model not only saved the project from certain disaster but also uncovered a market opportunity they had completely missed, one that could potentially double their profits. The next morning, the entire executive floor was buzzing. Sterling, having been briefed on the discovery, was in a state of shock. He summoned Leo to the boardroom, the very room where he had humiliated him just 2 nights before. This time, the room was silent. The executives who had laughed now looked at Leo with a mixture of awe and embarrassment. Sterling, his pride visibly wounded but his business acumen intact, stood up. His voice was different, quieter. "Leo," he began, holding up the smoothed-out paper, "I owe you an apology, a profound one. I judged you by your uniform and not by your intellect. What you did, it saved this company. It's brilliant." He gestured to an empty chair at the massive table. "That seat is yours." if you want it, in our analytics department, with a starting salary that reflects your talent. Leo looked from the chair to the faces around the room, and finally at Sterling. It wasn't about the money or the title. It was the recognition, the chance to finally be seen for who he was. A small smile touched his lips. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I accept." Leo's life changed overnight. He traded his janitor's uniform for a tailored suit, his cleaning cart for a state-of-the-art computer. But he never forgot where he came from. He became the company's most valued analyst, but he also championed programs for employee education and opportunities for internal advancement. He made sure no one at Sterling Enterprises was ever judged by their job title again. Alistair Sterling, humbled by the experience, learned a valuable lesson that day. He learned that genius can be found in the most unexpected places, and that true value is often hidden in plain sight, sometimes even in the trash. The crumpled piece of paper that started it all was framed and hung in the boardroom, a constant reminder that everyone has something to contribute, and you just have to be willing to see it.